What's up, everybody? This is Bev from Hamtopia, coming to you on the 29th of June. Shiz, we're already nearly in July. Anywho, been gearing up for my new channel, getting stuff together, and anybody that's watching, or listening rather, out there, please, any experiences that you have had or people that you know have had, both real life and paranormal, meaning, creepy run-ins with strangers and stuff like that, anything paranormal, anything to do with cryptids, please get in touch with us and share your stories with us. We will need all the material we can get. Now, without further ado, we will continue forward with The Reaper and the Scribe, Chapter 64. Thank you for joining us today. The rain pelted against the office windows of the Reaper in administration. John Smith looked out onto an unusually overcast morning, the image made opaque by the condensation built up upon the window pane. "Uncommonly miserable weather for summer, isn't it, Mara?" he said. "There is unrest in the streets, too," was her answer, as Sarah materialized in front of her desk. "Sister, I have been expecting you." "How do you want me to slay Crawshaw?" asked Sarah. "Were you not listening to Atkinson, Sarah? There will be no killing. Not yet." "Am I to just sit back and wait as my husband worsens or dies while whatever that thing is inside Crawshaw lives?" "That thing, as you call it, is going to help heal this planet. We have to find a way of dispatching it via Mr. Smith from the realm of death onto the realm of nature. We cannot do that if you run to Crawshaw and relieve him of his head with your sword now, can we?" "What would you have me do?" lamented Sarah, lowering her head as tears welled up again. "Save your tears for a start. Do you think Atkinson would let his beloved sentinel die? He sent him on a one-way journey." "No, Sarah, he wasn't aware of that piece of information until it was too late, and the pair of you were already in there." Sarah looked up and said, "Would he have sent Dixie alone?" "No, my sweet sister. Atkinson would have ignored the rules set out for such a problem as this and gone in with her himself." "Why is Dixie so expendable to him?" she asked. "We are all expendable as long as replacements are available. Smith wasn't ready to take Atkinson's place as figurehead, and Dixie, as yet, isn't prepared to take mine. It comes down to efficacy, not loyalty," was Tamara's hard-hitting answer. "Now, girls, shall we lighten this situation a tad by taking tea? I think we all need to calm down," said John Smith, turning from the window to his desk. It wasn't long before the quivering crockery arrived and was placed upon the table at the side of the room. "Will there be anything else, sir?" asked Mr. Braithwaite. "No, my fine fellow, that will be all. All this will be over within a day or two, and everything will work out fine in the end. Now, Who would like a cup of tea? Over a cup of perfectly brewed Darjeeling, Tamara informed Sarah of Mother Nature's plan to recycle the dark realm into energy. She also explained how difficult such an undertaking would be. Where does Paladin fit into this plan? Asked Sarah. That, I'm afraid, I'm not aware of yet, she answered. Clearly he's here for some purpose, said Sarah. Indeed he is, but I don't think this is it. I think Paladin has to do with the long-term future of this planet, and through him nature will work her magic on the plane of existence once she has the extra energy from the souls who resided in the dark realm, said Smith. This discussion carried on through the morning and into the afternoon. As this conversation was taking place, at the other side of the office wall, there was a different type of discussion. Oh, I was so worried about you. It was hard to think of anything but you, said an elated Johnson. I am back now, and hope I never leave your arms again, replied Dixie, as she kissed him on the neck. That's nice. But what if someone comes in? Said the cautious ex-chief inspector. I locked the door as I entered, she said, removing his jacket and tie. In the other realm, Dewhurst said to Atkinson, Let's bring Dixie in. I want to hear what happened in there. Atkinson hovered his finger over the button marked Dixie. He then smiled and said, It can wait for an hour or two, Dewhurst. Chief Inspector Crawshaw was still in the woods, sitting on a stone protruding out of the ground. He was now sporting a rough-looking beard and bore a demented look on his face. What was left of his mind was in turmoil. The more the dark beast within him grew accustomed to its new domain, the worse he looked. He lifted his head, and through dimmed eyes he saw what could only be an elder fairy. This fairy was like no picture of one he had ever seen, so much so she towered above him in height. The fairy then spoke. I speak to the collective souls within you. I am the one who allowed passage for you into this realm. I now offer you safe passage as cleansed spirits into my realm. Fuck off, bitch! Growled Crawshaw. Then you give me no choice but to leave you to Atkinson and your demise. Atkinson? What know you of this name? I know the bearer of that name will hunt you down. I shall look forward to meeting him again, said Crawshaw as he slunk away. You will find this one even stronger than the creator you seek, answered Mother Nature, as once again she left the plane of existence to prepare in her realm of nature the future of humankind. The dark beast, Crawshaw, continued walking towards the car All along the path that Crawshaw had trod, the vegetation withered and died. The day had become dark and cold. There was little bird song to be heard. Misery now followed in his wake as he shuffled into his car and sped away. Within minutes, he was back at the police station. Desk Sergeant Glenn Simpson called to him as he walked in. Crawshaw walked up to the police officer and grabbed him by the lapels of his tunic, pulling him over the desktop. Crawshaw looked at the bewildered sergeant and hit him across the face with the back of his hand, knocking him to the ground. "Do not disturb me, any of you! Understand?" snarled Crawshaw as he climbed the stairs to his office. Once inside, he sat in the chair and looked about the room. The dark beast within him realized the irony of his host. A large number of the souls within Crawshaw had been placed into the dark realm via the hangman's noose or the electric chair, put into that situation by the police, just like the one his dark army now infested. Downstairs, having stood up and adjusted his uniform, Police Sergeant Glenn Simpson took up his position back behind the front desk. Looking at the stunned police officers around him, he asked, "Are any of you prepared to say you witnessed what has just taken place?" There was an awkward silence for a moment, but it was broken by Police Officer Linda Harper, who pushed forward through the other officers and said, "I witnessed it, and furthermore, I want to make an official complaint about harassment and sexual discrimination from my superior, Sarge." After Police Officer Harper broke the ice, the rest of the assembled officers agreed to be witness to Crawshaw's appalling behavior. This isn't going to go well for him, because earlier I had John Smith in here reporting one of his staff as a missing person. The last time she was seen was when she entered the woods with the Chief Inspector, but he came out alone. "I have just sent the report to HQ," said Police Sergeant Glenn Simpson. "You don't think he—" Police Officer Linda Harper was stopped by Sergeant Simpson, saying, "I have just reported the facts to my superiors, as reported to me. There was surveillance equipment footage showing the employee and the Chief Inspector both going in, and only Chief Inspector Crawshaw leaving," interrupted the sergeant. As the police officers were making their separate statements, the phone at the front desk rang. Police Sergeant Simpson answered. It was the phone call he had been waiting for, and the official on the other end of the line told him to expect a visit and to limit the Chief Inspector's movements until she arrived. The day moved on, and Atkinson finally summoned Dixie into his realm. As she arrived, she knelt down before him. "Rise, Dixie. There is no need for you to kneel when summoned. First and foremost, you are no longer an unimportant elemental, Secondly, after your exploits in the dark realm, I should kneel to you."
"I was just doing your bidding, sire."
"Dixie, please, stand up. I want to talk with you." Nervously, she stood, looked at Atkinson, and offered him a small smile. "Ah, that's better, my dear. Now, tell me about the power of this beast we chase."
"I'm sure the Sentinel or the Earth Mother can inform you better than I, sire."
"No, Dixie, they cannot. The Sentinel is unconscious. The Earth Mother only speaks of killing said beast, a practice I have found to my peril twice that she is quite adept at performing. You are with Paladin, so through him you will have gained some idea of what we fight."
"Well, sire, our telepathic capabilities are limited in that realm."
"Yes, but they were stronger than Sarah and Gavin's," replied Atkinson. "He is formidable. Hate fuels him, and he seeks the Creator. Excellent. That will guide him straight to me. I think it's time you and John Smith had a small holiday."
"But what of Paul? Can he come too?"
"I'm afraid not. We need him here, dear, because we fight this beast on 2 levels. By the way, you, my dear, are a missing person, and that is very useful to me at this time. Now, go and say your goodbyes." With that, she was back in Paul Johnson's office.
"I have to go away,"
frowned Dixie. "I know. I was summoned to Dewhurst whilst you went to Atkinson."
"Did Dewhurst say for how long?"
she asked. "It will be until Atkinson and Tamara sort out the reaping of this thing from the dark realm. A couple of days, no more," was his reply. Back in the other realm, Dewhurst questioned Atkinson's actions. "2 things puzzle me, Atkinson. Firstly, why do you and Tamara need to perform this task? Secondly, why take the girl out of the equation? The reason it has to be me and not Smith is because I have only now realized his potential, so it would not be a good time to lose him. As for Dixie, one of the Dark Realm's occupants has already shared her thoughts. Potentially that could be dangerous, as she could give away, albeit unknowingly, our proceedings, and for the record, it should have been my administration." These answers were accepted by Dewhurst, as he said, "Agreed. I have instructed Johnson as to what transpired here. Very well. Begin the process of replacement. I will go and explain to the people in the office, and I'll see you when things are back to normal," said Atkinson. "Is this how it will always be?" asked Dewhurst. "How what will be?" "You taking over whenever there is trouble." "Only for the next millennia," answered Atkinson, his eyes showing a glint of excitement. "Do remember, this time, the first 3 days you are vulnerable. Also, it would be wise to remember that to the people on that plain, you, my friend, are dead, instructed Dewhurst, as the smiling Atkinson disappeared. He reappeared in front of Smith. Still smiling, he said, "I am back as Reaper for a while." John Smith placed his finger on the intercom button and asked Mr. Braithwaite to come in. Within seconds, Mr. Braithwaite had joined the gathered ensemble. "Mr. Braithwaite, there is to be a change of Reaper."
"Oh, I am afraid I can't allow that, sir. The bookkeeping would be erroneous, and that cannot occur,"
explained the old gentleman. "'Tis but a brief change, Mr. Braithwaite. We have to do things a little differently for a day or two. I will reap on this plane, whilst Mr. Smith has a little break in the realm of death."
"I don't quite follow, sir,"
said Braithwaite. "You don't follow because what we do is a brand new concept, Mr. Braithwaite. What will transpire is a one-off between ourselves and the goddess of nature."
"That is most irregular, Mr. Atkinson. May I use a different ledger for your time with us, so as not to disrupt the regular goings-on?"
"I would recommend that very thing, Mr. Braithwaite," agreed Atkinson, as the satisfied elderly gentleman left the office. "Bureaucrats, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. However, he is right. This has never been done before," said Atkinson. "What is it we are doing?" Smith inquired. "Nature tried to get Crawshaw to go straight into her realm from the plane of existence, but all she is allowed to do from this realm is ask. Of course, Crawshaw refused. We have to get what is inside of him from him. We then have to dispatch them from within Crawshaw to someone who is on tomorrow's list. That's where you come in, Smith. You will be ready in the realm of death, awaiting this person's mortal cord to appear. When the cord appears, you will cut it, thus releasing said souls into the nearest object, which, if all has gone to plan, will be me. I take it that it will not be as simple as you've just made it sound," said Tamara. "There may be problems, if they don't all cross over to me," answered Atkinson. "If that happens, we will all be called into action. All, that is, except Dixie. Dixie is going away, and she must remain on the missing persons list, because when we reap the souls to nature, we are still left with this troublesome Chief Inspector." "We could take care of him when this is done. But what about Gavin?" asked Sarah. "Should our plan prevail, as soon as the souls pass into nature, we shall put him out of his coma." "But I thought—" Atkinson interrupted Sarah by saying, "Gavin is in a coma for his protection. The beast has a link with him. That's all. That link would give my adversary an unfair advantage, so I have removed it." "When does all this begin?" asked John Smith. "In 3 days' time,
As tomorrow will point out to you, John, if for any reason you come back to the plane of existence to start an administration before your time, you are vulnerable for the first 3 days. Tamara hung on his words, thinking back to the turn of the 21st century, and Sarah plunging that blade deep into his temple. That image diminished as Dixie and Paul Johnson entered the room, bringing her out of her daydream. "Welcome, Dixie and Paul. Perfect timing. While Sarah and I deal with Crawshaw, John will be in the realm of death, waiting for the call, and Tamara will also be awaiting our call in the office. You, Dixie, will be in hiding. Anywhere you desire to go, it is up to you. This will help Paul's case against the Chief Inspector. The case Paul will be working on will be a murder investigation, and Dixie will be the one who has supposedly been murdered," said Atkinson. Paul Johnson nodded his approval. Dixie entered the discussion by saying, "You say I can go anywhere I like? Just name the place, and in 3 days' time you will be there," answered Atkinson.
In that case, I should like to spend my time off in your realm, sire.
"My realm, Dixie?"
"Yes, Gavin Jackson is there, and the one thing I know about this thing we chased is it is very powerful, so I will defend the Sentinel."
"Dewhurst will be doing that very thing," answered Atkinson.
"I understand that, sire, but if I am there, Mr. Dewhurst is at your disposal, should you need him on this plane," said Dixie.
Atkinson looked at Dixie, and unlike his father, who would have instantly killed her for insolence, thinking she could advise him on a decision, he smiled and said, "Let this be a lesson to all in this room. If you ever have a better idea than mine, speak up. Dixie, that is an excellent idea. Thank you." Dixie couldn't believe that not only was she living with these beings, but the great god Atkinson had spoken to her and also praised her. She bowed her head, remembering how insignificant she had been, until Tamara pointed a finger at her in the other realm and said, "You, step forward. Guard the human named Paul Johnson with your life, and make sure that everything he desires is granted. As far as I'm concerned, we all convene again in 3 days' time. As for now, I think a trip to Wednesday's wardrobe is in order. When did I last buy you a dress, Tamara?" Tamara smiled and said,
"I'm too busy thinking about the one you're going to buy me now to remember any in the past, my love."
"Paul, your investigation will be hard work, so I have decided to give Dixie and yourself 3 days away. There is a tropical island in the other realm whose only inhabitants are my personal elementals. I'm sure you two will love it," said Atkinson, as he closed his eyes. Instantly, Dixie and Paul were gone.
"What of Paladin while all this is going on? Surely he can be of assistance in all of this? Asked Sarah.
I'm still not sure. I think Mother Nature will call upon his powers when we reach the point where she's accepting the souls from the dark realm. But as I have said, his powers are different to ours. I am sure Paladin's future lies in the saving of the planet, said Atkinson. At the other end of town, Crawshaw lifted the receiver on his phone and called down to the desk sergeant.
"Can I be of assistance, sir?"
asked Sergeant Glenn Simpson.
"Send me 2 of your people up, now!"
Glenn Simpson put the phone down just as an official-looking woman entered the police station. "Do excuse me one moment, ma'am," said Glenn Simpson as he told 2 police officers to go up to the Chief Inspector's office. "Delay that request," said the woman. "Thank you very much for your speedy response, Detective Superintendent Malik," said Glenn Simpson. "Where is Chief Inspector Crawshaw?" she continued. "The Chief Inspector is in his office, ma'am. I will let him know you are here." "No, Sergeant Simpson. Where is his office? I'll see him unannounced." The sergeant asked one of his officers to escort the superintendent to Crawshaw's office. He then turned back to Superintendent Malik, saying, "The chief inspector is behaving in an odd fashion, ma'am. It might be a good idea to have an officer in the room with you." "Thank you, Sergeant, but I don't think that should be necessary at this point. Although, depending on the interview, that may change." "As you wish, ma'am, but I would like the officer to escort you inside, and if you feel secure, he will leave." There was a tap on Crawshaw's door, and the superior officer walked in, unannounced. The unwashed, unshaven Crawshaw looked up, expecting 2 police officers. Under the influence of the dark realm, he could not distinguish the 2 in front of him being anything different than that. One thing he did notice was that one of them was female. He picked up his phone without taking his deadpan gaze from the 2 people in front of him.
"Why do you keep sending me women, you idiot?" he screamed into the phone.
"I beg your pardon," said his superior.
"Deaf as well as stupid, are you? Get out!"
growled Crawshaw. "This interview is over, Chief Inspector Crawshaw. Hand over your warrant card. I am suspending you until further notice," said a shocked Malik.
"Get out of my office or I will throw you out!"
snarled Crawshaw. "Oh, you will you? You are in enough trouble already. Give me your badge, now!" With that, Crawshaw rose up from his chair and moved towards the detective superintendent. The other police officer stood himself between his 2 superior officers to offer protection to Victoria Malik, but his chief inspector took hold of him, and with ease threw him against the wall, rendering him unconscious. The detective superintendent couldn't believe her eyes as Crawshaw grabbed hold of her by the arms and leaned forward, his face almost touching hers. He put his nose right up to her face
and began to take in her perfume, sniffing like a dog. He grinned, showing stained teeth, releasing his gut-wrenchingly strong, bad breath. Malik felt sick to her stomach, but resisted his advance. She sunk her pointy shoe deep into his groin. He instantly let go of her arm, and she quickly made her escape. Crawshaw regained his composure and followed his superior officer out of the room. As she ran down the stairs, the officers in attendance ran to her assistance. Malik screamed at Simpson, "Get back up! He's out of control!" Glenn Simpson immediately switched on his radio, asking all officers within the vicinity to return to the police station, quick smart. Crawshaw burst around the corner at the top of the stairs and once again made for Detective Superintendent Malik. As the small number of officers advanced towards him, he repelled each and every one of them. As they tried to restrain the now totally out of control Crawshaw, Glenn Simpson took hold of his superior officer's hand and ran out of the door with her. A police car screeched to a halt outside with its blue lights flashing and siren blaring. Sergeant Glenn Simpson opened the back door, forcibly placing Victoria Malik on the back seat, then screamed at police officer Linda Harper to drive off. She put her foot down hard on the accelerator, and the police car sped away. Glenn Simpson then turned and ran back inside, along with the other officers answering his distress call. Once inside, they joined the fray, as one officer after another received a beating and unceremoniously smashed into the walls by this beast of a man who had become completely deranged. It didn't take very long for there to be 22 police officers, men and women, of all ranks up to detective, laid to waste on the floor with broken bones, lacerations, and for officers Edwards and Thomas, broken necks. The beast just strode over the carnage and into the outside world, taking with him the body of Crawshaw, as it needed his life force to survive on the plane of existence. Glenn Simpson just about managed to call for an ambulance as he passed out. The police car that had Victoria Malik as a backseat passenger pulled to a halt in the car park of a local supermarket. Police officer Linda Harper turned round from her driving position and said, "Can you tell me what's going on, please?" "What is your name?" inquired her superior officer in plain clothes. "Police Officer Harper. Now, can you please tell me what's happened? I received a call to hurry back to the station, and my sarge threw you into the back of my car." "First of all, I am Detective Superintendent Victoria Malik. For your report, that is Victoria with a K, not a C. Your sarge has just saved my life, quite possibly at the cost of his own. The Chief Inspector is quite deranged and needs to be arrested at the earliest possible opportunity. Now take me to Central Headquarters, please." "Excuse me, ma'am, but I need to return to help my comrades." "Harper, there is nothing you can do there. Pass me a radio,
and patch me through to HQ. Linda Harper handed Victoria Malik her radio, and the detective superintendent advised the central police station for the city to get as many people over as possible to Chief Inspector Crawshaw's station. Police officer Linda Harper drove the superintendent back to her HQ. As she pulled up, Victoria Malik asked her to follow her inside. Both women walked straight through reception to the detective superintendent's office. Taking her jacket off, Malik asked Harper to sit down. Now, Linda, let's dispense with rank. Before we start officially, tell me all you know about this Chief Inspector Crawshaw. You can call me Victoria. At the other police station, reinforcements had arrived. The ambulances and medics were already in attendance, administering relief to the wounded officers. The official in charge was Detective Sergeant Craig Walsh, who was in conversation with Sergeant Glenn Simpson. He was taking a statement from him and asked, "Are you the sergeant who placed a complaint against Crawshaw this morning?" "I am," confirmed Simpson. "What happened here?" Detective Superintendent Malik arrived and asked to be led upstairs unannounced. "And then what?" "And then, not long after, she came running down the stairs, quite distressed, being chased by Chief Inspector Crawshaw." "Did he cause all this devastation?" "Yes. According to my reports from different officers, more than 20 of you were overcome. Are you trying to tell me this was by Crawshaw?" "He was like an animal," stated Glenn Simpson. "The CCTV is still running, sir." "Animal or not, I find it hard to believe one man did all this." "The CCTV is still running, sir. You might want to check it for yourself." "Don't get an attitude with me, Sergeant." "Don't get an attitude," said the desk sergeant as he struggled to get to his feet and pointed to the two dead police officers in the corner of the room. "Don't get an attitude. 2 of my officers are dead, and you don't believe what I'm saying. Check the recording, sir," he insisted as he turned his back on D.S. Walsh and walked over to his slain comrades. Back at police headquarters, the conversation between Detective Superintendent Victoria Malik and Police Officer Linda Harper was carrying on, still off the record. "Tell me about Crawshaw, Linda. He's a sexist pig." "You sound like you have personal experience of this." "I have, ma'am." "Call me Victoria. This is off the record. I have to get my thoughts together about this man before I go on the record, Linda." The smile from Victoria Malik made Linda Harper feel more at ease. "Well, Victoria, he has made sexist remarks to me in all my dealings with him. He always complains about women officers and how they aren't capable of doing their jobs. He is violent, too. He dragged Sergeant Simpson over the front desk and slapped him across the face with the back of his hand, knocking him to the ground." "Did you witness this attack on Simpson?" "I did.
and several other officers witnessed it also, all of whom have now submitted a report on the assault.
It isn't looking good for Chief Inspector Crawshaw, and there is a missing person as well, with him being the last one seen with her," said Victoria. There was a knock on the door, and Malik shouted, "Enter!" "There has been a terrible occurrence at the police station on Park Road, ma'am," said Police Sergeant Morris. "That's where I've just come from," said the superintendent. "I know, ma'am. We sent people there, but we were too late," said the sergeant. "What do you mean, too late?" asked Linda Harper. "There are more than 20 injured, and I'm afraid 2 are dead." "Dead?" shouted Linda. "Ma'am, I need to get back," she continued. "Of course, I will come with you," said Victoria, placing her jacket back over her shoulders. The 2 women left police headquarters and headed towards Park Road Police Station. When they arrived, the whole area was cordoned off by the police. Getting out of the car, Malik showed her warrant card to the officer on duty and walked into the building with Linda Harper. There was blood everywhere, but most of the injured were already in the hospital. The 2 dead police officers, however, were being photographed by the forensic team. Burke and Hare were ready with their body bags, but there was no sign of the pathologist. "Where is Dr. Jackson?" asked Victoria Malik. He can't be found, ma'am. His assistant is on his way," said Glenn Simpson. "I don't want an assistant." "He is a qualified pathologist, ma'am, and works very closely with Gavin Jackson," assured Simpson. "Okay, thank you. By the way, Sergeant Simpson, if it hadn't been for your quick thinking, I might have been getting photographed along with these 2 unfortunate officers." 3, corrected Simpson. "How so?" "There's another dead police officer in Crawshaw's office, the one you took up with you earlier," said Simpson. "This is unreal. What has happened here, Sarge?" gaped Linda Harper. Carnage. Carnage from a madman," answered Simpson. "Are you all right, Sarge?" she asked. "I would be if that idiot in the suit would stop asking me stupid questions." Victoria Malik looked up and shouted, "Detective Sergeant Walsh!" Walsh came over to where she was standing. "I'm in charge now, Detective Sergeant. You can stand down and go back to your office." Detective Sergeant Walsh replied, "Yes, ma'am," and left. "There, Sergeant Simpson, I know I was here, but can you tell me, from your perspective, what happened?" "I can do better than that, ma'am. I can show you if you would like to come with me. I have it all on CCTV." "Excellent. Lead on," said Malik. Police Officer Linda Harper walked over to where the 2 dead officers were lying, trying to hold back her tears. As the CCTV footage was replaying the incident for the superintendent, Tom Harper arrived at the scene of the crime. "Over here, sir," said one of the police officers. Tom Harper made his way to the first of the 2 bodies. It wasn't long before the cause of death was noted. and the bodies removed. "Where is Dr. Jackson?" queried Malik as she returned from viewing the CCTV footage. "He is unwell, so I must do this in his stead," answered the very polite Tom Harper. "They both died from a broken neck, sustained by a single blow. Of course, I won't be fully able to confirm that until the autopsies." "I can confirm that for you. I've just watched it happen on CCTV. You will, however, be able to tell me what strength that hand must have had to inflict the deaths of these two and the one upstairs so easily?" "Everything will all be in my report, Chief Superintendent." Victoria Malik gave Tom Harper a knowing glance over the top of her spectacles and said, "How soon, Dr. Harper?" He smiled and said, "A Quasimo girl is also unwell, so with no distractions, it will be on your desk tomorrow morning." As Tom made his way upstairs to the third body, he passed Linda Harper. He put his forefinger under her chin and gently lifted it, giving her a smile. Victoria also moved over to where Linda stood. She noticed she was looking very distressed and said, "Now, my dear, don't take this to heart. You are a police officer, and our kind of officers have to work that little bit harder to hold our emotions in because of people like Crawshaw, if you know what I mean." Linda Harper nodded and said, "Thank you, ma'am. If you don't mind me asking, how do you know Tom? Normally, I would be very angry about such a question. I'm sorry, ma'am. I was out of line. Let me finish, Officer Harper. Come with me. There is no more I can do here. We can have a chat." "Of course, ma'am," was the obedient reply. The two women left the building as Tom Harper recorded his thoughts on the third body, removed his gloves, and said his goodbyes. Outside the police station, the three people met up again as Tom Harper walked over to where they were standing. "Right, I will be off then," said Tom. "I'm going to have to come and see you at work. Quasimo girl, indeed," laughed Victoria. "Keep away, for the sake of your sanity," said Tom, as he kissed Linda Harper gently on her cheek and made his way to the car. "I know Tom because we move in certain circles. We have things in common, let's say. Alas, you seem to know him better than I do, but I must say that I'm quite surprised," said Malik disappointedly. Linda Harper let out a small giggle and said, "Oh, no, ma'am, it's nothing like that. He is my brother." Detective Superintendent Victoria Malik smiled and said, "Oh, I see. But I'm sure a beautiful girl like you has lots of admirers." Linda Harper just lowered her head and said, It's okay, Linda. I understand the discrimination that goes on when people don't fit exactly into the mold." "Thank you for understanding, ma'am. I think it would halt my progress if people knew I was, shall we say, different." "It didn't hamper mine," informed Malik. Linda Harper's eyes widened as she said, are you, Malik's interjection helped Harper search for the right words to say.
A lesbian?
She whispered. Yes, Linda, I am. Now, another question, and please forgive its forthrightness. Do you have a girlfriend? Linda Harper just shook her head and said, No. In that case, your work for the day has ended. Go home and have a rest. Try to forget about what's happened here today, and maybe if you feel up to it, that is, we could have a spot of dinner tonight. My treat. Is that an order, ma'am? No, Linda. It's a request. A strange one to make at a murder scene, I know, but a request nonetheless. Then I accept. Victoria. My close friends call me Vic. Come on, I will drop you off at home, and I will return at 8. The two new friends sat in the car and drove off with thoughts of that night's meeting replacing thoughts of murder. After she dropped the police officer at her home, she thought to herself, did I really just come on to a police officer at a murder scene? She put it down to her mind being in an altered state due to what had happened, and the same girl that helped save her life. She thought about it no more and looked forward to later that evening. Crawshaw had wandered aimlessly after he left the police station. He began to feel tired, so he sat down under Crown Point Bridge to the south side of the river, his mind now totally under the influence of the dark realm. Any traces of the police officer had vanished. All he felt now was hate, and all he sought was revenge. The only word in his head was Atkinson. All he wanted to do was kill. Standing up, he placed himself aloft in the Victorian girders of the bridge and formulated his plans to destroy everything that Atkinson stood for and all who stood in his way. He lay back on the girder, out of sight of the passing strollers, cyclists, and dog walkers, and fell into a deep, rejuvenating sleep.